Hey guys, you're watching Daniel and Gian review. Before we get started, we wanted to send our prayers, well wishes, whatever you want to call it, out to the people of Kerala in this monsoon season and the terrible just destruction and travesty that's going on over there. So we just want to let you guys know, if you're watching this video, we are going to donate all of our AdSense revenue towards that link up on there for the I'm sorry, so many This is a tough one for me because this really reminds me of what happened last year in Puerto Rico and the same kind of things happening where we're still finding bodies of people, and I mean, that's a completely different subject when it comes to the government's involvement, but my heart goes out to everyone out there, and I really want to do what we can to help. So we've decided we're going to match whatever money we can
at the end of 30 days.
And so we're going to ask you guys is, instead of donating any money per se, if you don't have it, what you can do, just watch the ad at the beginning of the video. If you have an ad blocker.
Can't say that.
You can't say that?
It's spam.
So I can't mention not watching the ad.
We could talk about not saying that and leave this part in the video.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
we can't explicitly tell people to watch the
yeah,
ads.
so we can't tell you to watch the ad. So, but
when you do watch the ads,
when you do watch the ad, AdSense. I guess the best thing to do is to share this video. Watch this video, share this video with everyone that you can, and try to get people to watch this as much as you can, because you're not coming out of pocket anything, and you're like I said, we're gonna donate all the proceeds, and we're gonna match it. Yeah, whatever we hit, we're gonna match it out of pocket ourselves. So just spread the word. I'm going to be spreading the word with my friends and family on Facebook. They don't normally watch our Indian content. So, it's going to be a...
My friends or family don't watch any of my content.
Yeah.
So... But anyway, but let's go back to the positive note, why everyone clicked on this video, because, let's just get into it.
I'm going to actually attack this on a different angle. And I want to say, not for this movie, but it shows how far
the
industry has come in a short amount of time, because this is 2003.
2001 when it was filmed.
Was it 2001?
When it was filmed, released in 2002.
And you can see the difference. This feels like something that was shot in the 1970s. Everything from the film stock onto the sound.
The no-sync sound.
It sounds like, it reminds me of an older 50s and 60s movie where they use the sound trees. Basically, they ADR'd everything. I don't know how many different languages this was released in, but it feels like they ADR'd everything so that way they could just plug and play whatever.
According to the comments, which I didn't know, Lagan was the first sync sound film of the whole entire Indian film industry, and that was in 2002. So that's why it wasn't a bother to us, probably, most likely, when we watched Lagan and everything after that. Because this is the oldest Indian film we've watched on this channel. On a story level, I think there's a lot to talk about that's positive. But just some of the actual filmmaking technique, I'd love to see this movie remade in 2019, 2020, right. Whatever, because I think the story's there. I think the character, because it's the real true life story, the events that unfold, they're all gripping and but there's just so many bad things that happen on a technical level that it took me out almost every time. And I don't know if you feel the same way. Did you feel the same way? Anytime there was a riot, and then you'd see the officers not hitting hard.
There was definitely parts, the one that stood out to me more than anything was when the Muslim guy goes to the movies for the first time, and he accidentally backs into the prohibited area,
which I didn't know about. That was an interesting thing to learn.
But the beating part of it took away from it because it was just so bad.
It was over the top. Yeah. I mean, you would. It wasn't over the top. It was the choreography of the stunt.
It was a combination of the choreography and the guy's acting.
And it was also the shot selection, too. Yeah. I wonder if the fact that they chose to shoot anamorphic limited them, because there's not a lot of tight shots. I'm not saying there's no close-ups throughout the whole movie. There clearly are.
Can you explain anamorphic?
So anamorphic is a type of lens that was used very, very prevalently in the 1960s in order to combat television, the rise of television in America.
It's the reason why movies are now 16:9
widescreen,
and not 4:3 like that TV was at the moment.
But essentially, it's very hard to get tight because the lenses are just so wide. So as a result of that, you're going to see more area, and so when you're so wide, sometimes it breaks away from the tension of a scene because you're not seeing the guy's like extreme close-up and nothing else.
Yeah.
You know, if you were seeing the guy's face as he's getting beaten down, you'd be like, oh my God. But since you see it's so wide, you get to see them like half-ass hitting them. I'm not saying they needed to hit them, but it's just selling it.
You can see
the
stuff
sound design doesn't help either because the sound effects are not good. They're just not. And this, we're not shitting on the movie on a story level. This is just technical right now. Please understand that. I mean, every time a British officer talked, it was just...
Well, you could tell that they hired...
like some random
They
dude.
hired white people, not necessarily British guys. There was different accents.
Because Ajay Devgn and the actors were great.
Right.
They're great ADR artists. I'm sure because they were doing it for many, many years prior to that. But, you know, at a certain point, I forgot, like, oh, this is not synced, but then things would pop out, and that's what really bothered me.
Right, and it was other things, like I said, back to the casting, you had stuff like, I could tell there was like a South African guy there, sounds like there was a Dutch guy there, like they weren't like consistent English accents, they were just like, we need a white guy, let's just throw him out there, and that's kind of like...
going to their audience.
Yeah, exactly, the people in the audience don't care, or necessarily, you know, might not even be able to tell the difference as much as we can as native English speakers. It felt like a TV movie. It felt like this did not feel like something that would be released in
and maybe that's just our standards, you know, because we haven't watched any movies older than this.
But even the way kind of like the transitions between scenes also felt like they cut to commercial.
Well, I feel like that's honestly because the film was more concerned about hitting the narrative elements of Singh's life as opposed to telling a story about the man.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense, you know. It was more about, okay, this happened in history, and then this happened in history, and then this happened in history.
Because it went sequentially, too. It starts at the end, and then we go back.
What did you think about the little montage that starts the movie, where it kind of shows the whole movie in like a minute and a half before they even started the movie? Because I feel like the audience knows who he is, maybe, when it was released.
As you know from some of my writing, I like to start movies in the future and then go back into the past. That's something that I like to use. I don't like to put the ending all the way at the beginning.
That he gets hung?
If anything, I like 3/4 of the way, you know, like...
To give an audience something to be invested in.
Yeah, something to look forward to and how we got to that event, but then something has to happen after that. But when you start already, like, we know what happens at the very beginning, and this, you know...
But I'm sure maybe...
People already, if he dies in real life, everybody knows he dies in real life.
Right.
It's still
and how he died and everything.
Exactly.
So, you know, again, maybe that's just something that's not... As an outsider, we don't get that, and that's done for them. But as a filmmaker, I don't like showing this montage thing.
Yeah.
I just don't.
It's unnecessary.
Yeah. Because it wasn't done in like a James Bond sense. Because James Bond title sequences kind of do tell the whole movie, but they're so abstract, you have no idea how until you've seen the movie. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, there's certain things I did like. I loved the way it was shot. I loved the film. Obviously, that was the only choice back then, but I just... Love the way it was lit. I liked the camera movement. I did like how there was a lot of jib shots.
There were some camera movements there that were a little odd.
There was some unmotivated camera movements. It wasn't perfect.
Like when he meets the girl they want him to marry, like there's a lot of like
zooms.
There was
the second song between him and the girl. There's like this shot. There's like 3 shots they cut to. It's like a close up from this side, and then a close up from this side, and then a close up from this side, like back to back to back. It was like really weird. So I know what I hear you 100%, but for the most part,
no, it was solid.
I was involved.
It was
if the sound would have matched the visuals through and through, I don't think I would have been as distracted. But it's just hearing the gunshots just sounds so like it just didn't.
You know what? It sounded old. That's the problem.
It did.
It sounded old. It reminded me of Z. If you guys,
but even Z, I feel like but it was made in 1969.
Exactly.
So I don't fault the movie for that.
That's where I'm getting to. Like, if you guys haven't watched it, there's a movie. It's a Greek. I don't know if it's technically a Greek film, but it's by a Greek filmmaker. It's called Z. It came out in '69. It's about the same thing, a revolution against imperialism in this made-up country. It's a pretty good movie.
So if you like this movie, besides the fact of the historical references to your own like culture, but you like the fact of like a revolutionary story, I recommend Z.
But it reminded me of another movie that's even older called Battle Algiers. It's a black and white film filmed in Morocco about the Algerian Revolution against the French. Also very powerful movie, something to check out as well. There's a lot of influences there. A lot of the same. It reminded me a lot of the same action sequences as well, and kind of the way they build things up. But sound-wise, it reminded me of the same. And Battle Algiers came out in 1958, I think, or it's either late 50s or early 60s.
It's in the 60s, I'm pretty sure. But either way, I mean, those are old movies.
Exactly. These are both movies that are almost 50 years old.
And 2002 is 15 years ago, 16 years
yeah.
ago. So, and I get it. I understand that the industries have different growth patterns or whatever, because you wouldn't be able to say that to almost any movie nowadays coming out of the Indian film industry. So it's just like, that's why I said at the beginning, like, I'd love to see this movie remade.
Right.
I would just telling the life story. You can even do the same thing for me minus the songs. This is the first movie in a while where I just hated every single song, because the moment I would get involved with, because I don't know anything about him, right? So I'm learning, and then you drop the song, and I was just like, fuck, man, the tone, because it's so serious. Let me, you're showing death.
Let's ask you guys, the viewers out there, about the songs. How, at this point, we realize that songs are an expectation now, but if they made a movie without songs, how upset would you be? Are the songs more for the common viewer? Like,
that's a good question.
For example, like here, people watch Fast and the Furious movies. We like to bring that up. Fast and the Furious movies are not good movies. They're on a, as if you're a film connoisseur, you're not a fan of the Fast and the Furious movies, because there's a lot of issues with it. There's a lot.
Not true. I like a lot of dumb movies.
It's a dumb movie, but it's like, you're watching it and you dumb yourself down watching it. But they're made for the common person who's trying to get a break from the work week, who's trying to.
Right. You wouldn't have a Martin Luther King film.
Exactly.
Made in the style of Fast and the Furious.
Exactly. It's an escapism. So, if you were to remove the songs from this movie, you as an Indian film viewer, would that bother you? Would that like upset you? Or do you need that like
to double back? I mean, not to double back, but to piggyback off.
Because I get it. We hear in the comment section that we're always saying something about the songs. Me, in particular, I definitely always mention the songs, but I don't mention them as. I just say personally, as a Western viewer, as an American viewer, I don't care for them. They take away from the film.
But maybe that's why Kashyap's not popular amongst the entire country, because he doesn't have songs, at least from the films we watched. I'm sure he's had song numbers in his movies. I mean, obviously in Gangs of Wasseypur, technically there are those moments where like the guy is singing, but it's not the same.
No, because the song is taking place. It's actually happening. Like in Bajrangi Bhaijaan, they had the different songs, but they had the one song, the best song in the movie, was actually taking place.
I mean, there was one in this movie that was taking place at that play, but again, the sound design for me ruined it. That's the only thing.
And that's funny you mentioned that song. That's the only song I liked.
Because it was there.
Well, because it was character building as well. Like, these guys came in to break this play up, like how these guys having a song.
And then they start dancing
and that was a little bit silly, but it was like they realized this guy throwing the play. Number one, the song he was singing was about revolution, was about like not bowing down to the British.
I didn't hate that song. Yeah. It was the other songs that were just too. It didn't fit the tone. But I think that's a great question though. If the songs weren't there, would you be angry? Would you like, oh, this movie sucked. There was no emotion. You know, I don't know because for me personally, obviously we grew up without them. That's not entirely true. We watched musicals. But it wasn't every single film incorporated music, which it feels like that's how it is.
Full disclosure, I'm not a fan of musicals, American musicals either. So
there's only a few that I actually consider.
I like Disney musicals are the only ones, like Disney animated films.
Because it's a cartoon.
Because it's a cartoon,
it's already out there.
And you can do more stuff like visually with a cartoon that you can't. You know, like in Aladdin, they're flying on a magic carpet over the entire world, and he's singing the song. Like, okay, I get it. You know. And in Little Mermaid, you got a crab singing
under the water with Poseidon.
You know.
So yeah, it's a little out there, but so take it back to the movie for a second. So as I was watching this, obviously, as I've said numerous times already, we didn't know who this guy was. Obviously, that's why we watched this movie. If we knew who he was, we would have just went straight to Wrong Day Basante, because that's the only reason why we're watching this right now. Is everyone said we need to get some information, and I get it. I see why. Yeah. Because this guy was like an Malcolm X to the Martin Luther King. If Gandhi's Martin Luther King, then he's definitely a Malcolm X figure. From what I've gathered from the movie. You know, I don't know how one-to-one accurate it is, because I read something after about how the wife wasn't... well, technically she wasn't a wife, because I don't think they ever got married. I think that was the whole thing.
She wasn't an important part of the film.
No, I know, but that I believe someone's daughter, I wish I remembered, because I was reading before the movie came out, she tried to stop the release of the movie because inaccurate representation or something. I don't know. Point is, though, as I was watching this, I'm like, man, I started thinking of Al-Qaeda and all of these fundamentalist groups that are active right now, right? And I'm not comparing them one-to-one. I'm not doing that, so please let me finish my point first. Because I was thinking, what revolutionaries exist right now in this country that are similar to that, who are willing to shoot cops, even though the cops will kill, their own people, right? Because that happens all the time here in this country.
Right.
But who is willing to go and we're going to take this guy out because he killed one of ours, right? Or who's going to go into Congress and throw these bombs? Now, they weren't explosives because they were safe, but even still, even if I supported them and they went and did that,
it's
I don't know.
It's like throwing firecrackers in a...
But I don't know how I would feel about that.
Right.
But are there any people like that today? And the only people I can think of are like the people who are the radicals, what we call them radicals, right? The jihadists, the whatever you want to classify them as.
I mean, I guess you could say the Antifa right now, but they haven't taken it to the next level yet. And then there's a lot of theories that the Antifa are plants.
Right. Yeah, to get them to disband and to make them look bad. But my point
like
is, though...
COINTELPRO with the Black Panthers in the late 60s or 70s.
Exactly. My whole point, though, is in 1920, when these people were going around doing these things... were they looked at as like the same way we looked from the rest of the world, not within India, but from the rest of the world? Were they looked at as ISIS members, and we're just not we, but the rest of the world was on the wrong side of history, they became?
I'm sure Europe definitely looked at them as terrorists.
Because they even said they've explicitly said like they think we're terrorists. So that's actually what made me think of it, where it's like, are we looking at them wrong? Are we looking at ISIS wrong? I don't think so, but who's to know how their story plays out over time?
Who knows? And I think...
Because this is 100 years later, and now he's a hero.
I think the difference between ISIS and Al-Qaeda versus this guy, and just this example that we're seeing, is that ISIS and Al-Qaeda are killing their own people, easily, readily, and they're trying to, like, if you don't join us, we're going to kill you. And this wasn't the case. At least what this movie portrayed, they're trying their best not to kill any Indian people. They didn't kill any of the Indian police officers.
I'm glad you brought the Indian police officers up, but go ahead, finish your point.
So they made it a point where they were only trying to attack
the oppressors and
get them out of the country.
Which makes sense.
And I think,
again, I'm not comparing the two. It's just something that made me think of it.
Absolutely. I mean, back then, with the lack of information, like there was no internet, and everything was like you got an article probably a week, 2 weeks, maybe even a month later that something happened. Because of how things travel.
And then you spread the word. Did you hear about so-and-so? Right, he did this, and then... I mean, so I guess my whole thing is just like, it's interesting to see different revolutionaries happening. Because, I mean, there's definitely American aspects to this whole fight that was going on that I saw with civil rights movements and things like that. Obviously, it's not one-to-one because we weren't going to Africa and doing this stuff. They were coming over here. It
kind of reminded me of the Cuban Revolution with Fidel Castro, because Bhagat Singh came from I don't want to say he was a wealthy family, but he came from a well-off family. Like, his dad owned something. His dad was able to bail him out easily.
Those 60,000
rupees,
exactly.
Like nothing. And Fidel Castro was educated and came from a wealthy, or at least an upper middle class family.
And it makes his job easier to convey his message, because, I mean, that's why he wanted to be the one to throw the bombs and get arrested Bhagat Singh, because he's like, who else speaks better than me?
Right.
Who else can convey the message better than me? So I hear you 100%.
So there was a lot of that, and I mean, it was, I don't want to say inspirational, because I'm not ready to go take up arms per se, but I respect the fact that this man was willing. Like, he said straight up, he told his parents, he's like, listen, this is what I'm dedicated to.
I'm not marrying this woman.
No, I'm sacrificing my life. Like, if I die, I die, but this is what I was made to do. And I feel like
it takes some balls, man.
It needs to
takes
be done,
some fucking balls.
and just like planning everything out and not having that fear. Like, one of my favorite scenes was the cricket scene.
Oh, when they brought in those like Turkish,
where the guys were
those Turkish weight clubs,
right?
The wrestling
don't call them Turkish.
They are.
Are they Turkish?
They are. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna catch some heat.
The ones that they twirl over their heads to build up strength here. I think
the clubs.
Yeah, they're Turkish something. They are.
Watch. Someone's gonna mention that.
Go ahead. Kill me in the comments.
No, like that scene where they're not putting up with these little rich British boys bullshit.
But the fucking ADR killed it for me. Like, they're just...
the scene itself was a bit cheese, but I liked what it represented.
Exactly.
There's like scenes that I liked that weren't the best, maybe not the best technically, but where...
That's what I was saying,
where they're in the courthouse, when they're in the courthourse and they do this panning shot and they just move to everybody's face suddenly to have them say their word, That's
which is like his ideals of what he represents.
Right, and it was a little cliche scene, but it was powerful. Like I enjoyed it. I thought that was a great like representation of who these guys were and what they represented.
I mean, it started off with the bang, literally with that massacre where they just killed all those Indians practically for no reason, or at least it seemed that way. And then the kid, him as a kid, is running through and re-experiencing all this stuff or experiencing. I was kind of
that
confused,
was like the turning point of what really like
triggered him to like, and I get that. That was good. I really enjoyed that stuff. It's just overall it's just the technical level wasn't there, and actually, honestly, makes me worried to watch movies that were made in India prior to 2002.
Right.
Now, because I don't want to say this every single time that it's a distraction, because I try my best to separate it and say, okay, they didn't have it, stop, but when you get educated in this stuff, when you watch movies constantly, it's so hard to turn that part of your brain off.
We've mentioned it before, but audio is so important. And, when the audio, I can watch a shitty picture and turn my eyes off. I can ignore the bad picture. My perfect example of that is I like to use Gran Torino. The cinematography on Gran Torino is not the best.
I don't have a problem with it. It's simplistic.
Well, there's a reason why you don't have a problem with it, because the movie was good enough where you could look past it, which is my point, you stupid dick.
Well, I use Paranormal Activity or Blair Witch Project, which are literally shot on like DV camera.
Well, Blair Witch Project, once you found out it wasn't real, was terrible.
Well, no, I'm saying that from a technical aspect, you watch a shitty sound looking movie because the sound is good.
But the audio is what I'm saying. When the audio, you can't turn your ears off. There's no way you can ignore it. There's no way you can look. You can't make justifications with your ears the way you can with your eyes.
And then it's also the staging and the actual fight choreography was just it was not good.
No,
and
that was
in combination with the sound effects. It's just sad because it for me it just took away those super impactful moments.
But like we said, this is 17 years ago, so
that's
at
why
a certain point you got to give it a pass, and I think that's a reason why so many people are like, we need to watch Rang the Basanti because
it's newer.
It's newer and it's upgraded and it's probably got better.
I mean, I don't know we still don't know.
We don't know what's good. We don't know what
but at least we have a foundation. I feel like because and I'll finish with this. Overall, I'll give the movie. On a story, I'm going to give 2 ratings on this one because I think it's only fair. Story-wise, I think it's a solid 7, just solid 7 because I learned a lot. But once you factor in it's like a 5, like the technical level. So like as a film, would I recommend this to a peer to watch? Probably not. I would honestly just say, hey, read about it on Wikipedia. And then if you're interested in that, maybe go check out the movie so you can see things happen visually. But it's like...
I'm going to say on a story, I give it an 8 because I like the story quite a bit. As a film itself, that's probably like a 4 or a 5. This is one of those movies that a history teacher would show
in school,
in high school.
Yeah.
Like it is a school movie that you would watch. This was not a movie that someone would tell you to go and rent at home and watch for. This is not a movie they would show at film school. That's a better way of putting it. Like you wouldn't say like, hey, if you're teaching like Indian cinema, this isn't the one that you would show to people for the filmmaking aspects of it. But if you were a history teacher or a professor showing like the Indian Revolution,
and you only had 2.5 hours to teach this guy's life,
it would be one of the movies. I had a class like this that was a political films class where they would show. I mean, all the movies they showed were great, but. It would be that this would be if it wasn't about American history and politics and this was about Indian, he'd probably show this film because it does. I feel like it has important messages that it does convey that you can learn from.
I agree,
and you have to look at it in that.
I agree, and I that's why I said as like a story, it's like a 7.
And I think you wanted to say something about the cops, and there's something that bothered me too.
Oh yeah, I just
on a human level, like it's just so scary to me, and I've mentioned it before. We talked about gangsters. How you're able to get people to do this evil shit against their own people.
That's what I was gonna add. Like,
it's not just in every country. Like even in this country, we don't know what would happen if there was some sort of like would the military side with the people or the government here? And I'm thinking no, they would side with the government.
It depends. I think it depends on what the issue is and what exactly.
I think it depends on who's. There's a reason.
Who's the target?
There's a certain level of intelligence. And I'm not saying military people are dumb, but I would say the vast majority of military people...
they get beat into submission, man.
Right.
That's the whole point of basic training, and then all the specialized
training. And they separate you, though. Like, the higher you score on the ASVAB test, You're going to a different branch.
They don't want you
You
with
got
the
a
little,
better job.
the-
They don't
the
have the
grunts.
grunts, exactly, because the grunts are the guys you can control. Those are your pawns, and I don't know.
Well,
It was disturbing to me, and I mean, this isn't the first time we see it, but I don't know. I just really, on a human level, like
no, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's just like the
how easily they seem to do it too.
That's because you watch Kashyap's movies and they're all fucking corrupt.
Right.
Like he's willing to say cops are bad.
Right.
We're going to show you the story of a cop being bad. You know, in all of these films, we just see them enacting the policies of the English, and I don't know if that's a way to separate, to say, oh no, it's not them, it's England telling them what to do. But in this movie, more than ever, I just wanted to, like, they don't ever talk about these people. You never see them saying, why are you doing this against us? Why are you, how come you don't join our side? And maybe I'm just ignorant of the whole situation. I don't know the dichotomy between the thing, but it's just like...
Well, he does make one comment about, I'm loyal to my country, you're loyal to your job. He does say that.
But that's the thing. But
Yeah.
we don't go any farther than
No.
that. We don't see what it's like for them to go home in 1920s. Like, I'd love to watch a film about a police officer in the 20s.
And maybe there's a movie that exists that
Let
shows
us know in
like,
the comments.
We both watched Gold, and that was kind of touched upon how the Punjabi kid, his dad said go be a cop so that you can stop people
after they
from getting
kidnapped
beat.
him.
Exactly. After they kidnapped him and beat him up, yeah.
But I'm just saying though, like that's not a criticism of the movie. I want to know the humanity behind these people. That's all. That's all I'm saying. It's not a criticism.
It's a
of,
different
the
perspective,
film.
and maybe the movie does exist. Maybe there's a movie about.
Let us know in the
children,
comments.
I mean, I feel like there's movies about Nazi Germany that take that perspective as well.
Yeah, there absolutely are. I've seen them, and I think there's other stories to be told, because when you watch a movie like this, it's like no fucking wonder why Indian cops are like not really held in the highest regard.
Right.
Just like how cops are not held in
I
the
feel
highest
like
regard
normally
here.
they're just held like idiots. They just seem very dumb and not.
And lazy and fat.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? The cops here, there's
Lazy and fat ones.
right, but there's also I feel like there's proof somewhere that says they look for people who are between a certain IQ level to be a cop here. Like they don't want the smartest guy to be
It's just
cops.
like the military.
Yeah.
They don't want the grunts.
I mean, a
'cause
lot of military guys become cops once they get out of the service. So.
I mean, but again, we're not trashing, or I'm not trashing. It's
I'm
just to
trashing
maybe.
cops.
Well, no, I'm just saying my criticisms right now are not towards this film specifically.
Right.
It's just like
It's
I'm
a
just
commentary. It's something we noticed, and I'm right there with you. But anyways, that's gonna do it for us, guys. Thanks for watching. Joe, smash that like button, leave comments, let us know what you
Don't
think.
forget to share because of what we talked about.
Don't
at the
forget to
beginning.
share at the beginning of the movie. The link for donations is in the description. It's up on the screen as well. I mean, any place you can help, anyway. If you live close and you can go over there and help. I don't know the situation, like how to get there, how far it is from people, but people need you, and if you're able-bodied and have the time,
Anything helps, man.
Anything helps.
Anything helps. Just
it's
one of those situations where literally, it's better to give give $1 than it would be to give nothing.
Exactly.
Because that's one more dollar that can go to help.
Exactly.
But yeah, so hit that link and help if you can. But
All right.
that'll do it.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah.